Waters Morning Scramble and wrapping up my Wednesday here with Tom Dirato, which is a good way to wrap things up. Morning, Tom.
How you doing?
Doing well. Watching it. I guess it's. I didn't look out between the commercial break here, but I guess it's still raining, and nothing new about showers in May. And along with that, and your spring sports, we're used to this. It's nothing new, but also a little anxious. Want to play some ball this week?
And that's the truth. And if you believe the percentages, I think they start to head down beginning tomorrow. So maybe that's a good sign. And lots of things going on. The regional doesn't need to be softball regional doesn't need to be interrupted by rain. Although with 4 teams, it's easier to get around it than with 6. Back in the day when we did baseball. But then you have tomorrow night a special night at Old Bray Stadium. I guess you could call it, I suppose, it's the official dedication of the stadium itself. Even though we played a bunch of games in it already this year. And, of course, the ex-president is supposed to be there to throw out the first pitch, President Bush. And hopefully that'll work out for everybody. And then we get to play in that game and finishing up the regular season and head on down to Oklahoma City for the Big 12 tournament next week. So things are starting to come to a head here pretty quickly.
And they're already going over all the plans and all the alternative plans. I don't know whether you can have an alternative plan for President Bush, but and I haven't seen the media list on. I mean, I did look at the credential request form, but along with that, the excitement, all the positive storylines that go along with that, because every major media outlet in the area is going to be there talking about not only that but also the stadium, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's over and above the fact that it is a baseball game, and obviously it is part of the regular season, and you try to win and gather momentum, and that's part of it. But, there's a lot of good things around it. With his arrival and having been part of 2 presidents, I say part, having been around 2 presidents that have come here for various things, I know how probably difficult is not the word, but there's a lot of attention to detail, to say the least, that even I didn't think took place. I mean, and I knew that, security was great around presidents. I didn't realize just how great the security was. So I'm sure they have, I know they've gone over for the last week. And Leon Jones, my good friend, the police chief, has probably, he's had some long days and long nights probably working with the Secret Service. But, it'll be a moment that Mr. O'Brate certainly will remember because they're good friends, he and President Bush. And that'll be big for him. I think his family's going to be here. And all we got to hope for is the weather holds off and doesn't do what it's doing right now at 6 o'clock tomorrow. We don't need that to happen. But overall, it should be, and I think there's fireworks after the game. So it ought to be a big night there at O'Brate, and hopefully the game will live up to its billing. Although, incidentally, before we get out of here, I want to make sure I tell you that we're going to preview the game with Tom Holliday this afternoon on Where Are They Now. That's one of the reasons I got Tom in. But the other reason is he's kind of trying to further a different plan on super regionals that seems to be taking hold a little bit. I don't want to go into it too much here. But
you mean working with the NCAA on this?
Yeah, we're trying to further a plan and see if there's it always comes down to money, right? Long story short. And it comes down to using some, I'll let some of the cat out of the bag, using some of the major league cities for super regionals. And, whether that's a popular idea, whether it could be pulled off.
Playing in their parks and stuff?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome, I think.
Don't know how far it's going to go, but Tom has Tom, he's pretty detailed, and TH will have all the numbers that you need and how it'll work, and so he's not going to just throw something out there just for the sake of doing that. But it's an interesting theory, let's put it that way. Whether it would happen or not, I don't know. But basically, he didn't think that super regionals are super once you win the regional. Now it's super if you're hosting. I told him that the other day. I mean, it's a half super philosophy. I think it's pretty super if you come into my house to play the best 2 out of 3. But if I have to jump on a plane and go somewhere else, maybe it's not as super. So we'll get into that in detail. We'll preview what's coming up. This is a New Orleans team that is exactly what you would think. I mean, I don't know if they call themselves mid-majors. I hope I'm not disrespecting them, but they're certainly not on the level of a Big 12 team by any means. They've got a ton of transfers. I mean, half their roster's basically JUCOs and grad transfers and portal kids that find their way. It's not a bad place to find your way, right? New Orleans, and I think I don't know if they won or not last night. I didn't check, but going into last night, they were 28-24. Win one, lose one kind of guys, and they have a halfway decent pitcher in Turpin. I'm sure they'll throw out there, but their numbers are not. I mean, Southland Conference numbers are not big. They're not good in terms of how good they would be, and frankly, we didn't schedule them to be that good. We scheduled them to be the last series out of conference and be able to beat up on them and get down to Oklahoma City with some momentum. So, I don't know if they'll cooperate or not. It's up to us. But they lost to Tulane. They only lost 5-0 to LSU. So they played a couple of halfway decent teams, and mostly it's Southland Conference stuff. And I guess the biggest claim to fame is they took 2 out of 3 against Louisiana Monroe, and they went in and beat TCU twice last week in an off week. So you can make it what you want, but they got a couple of power hitters in the 2-3-4 hole. Got a freshman who leads off, who's pretty good, Caston Furr. I mean, they got a nice blend, but they're a veteran team. They're as far as years are concerned because they played at other places. But they hit it, don't pitch it very well, and defend it halfway decent. So we'll see what they bring in.
Let me ask you this, Tom. Are we going to go to the trouble of the trouble's not a very good word, but to the links to get these games in after the one with President Bush, after that we did with Baylor, because these aren't conference games. If we do have the rain throughout Friday and Saturday, will they go to that trouble?
My first answer would be no. But at the same time, that's why they're in here, because we wanted to have games after the Bedlam, after the Baylor series going into Oklahoma City next week.
And with school being out, it's not like they have any place really to go besides the expense of staying, right?
You only get so much out of playing each other and hitting in the cage. So, no matter who you're playing, it's good to get out on the field and pitch it and throw it. And there are a couple of things that need to be aired out here this week. I say aired out, or at least tried out. I mean, I think Parker Scott and Brett Stanley is supposed to make a somewhat of a return to the lineup. Don't know in what form or fashion it'll be, how long it'll be, but you want to get them on the mound if you can for a stretch of whatever that they deem necessary. So they just won't be doing it for the first time in Oklahoma City. So that's one of the importance of this series. The other is just to get guys out in the field and get them at bat and get them to the mound. And it's always dangerous when I say stuff like that, because I don't half believe it. New Orleans is going to make sure that you have to play your starters. I mean, that's the whole idea of competition, right? Is to come in here and get after you and make sure that it's not going to be 21-0. It's not going to be Arkansas Pine Bluff, and all these best plans that we have. But I know one of the things is to get those two guys back in the mix in some form or fashion. Now, how long and when it will be, so that's a long answer to your question, but I would say to some extent, yes, they would try to get all these games in the best they could.
Yep, that sounds good. And, of course, the Cowgirls play on Friday afternoon, 1 o'clock, the second game of that, and that's Oklahoma State and Campbell. They are the Camels, and I believe that they're called that. They're in North Carolina, which is tobacco country.
Correct.
And we decided this morning that
I don't know if that's the reason.
That's why it's that walk a mile for a camel.
Yeah, that makes for a good story, but I don't know if that's it. I'd have to ask the Campbell people just exactly how that came about. But, it sounds good, though. Maybe it is.
Well, I mean, that's the biggest industry out there. Why wouldn't it be?
Well, if it's not, it ought to be. Let's put it that way.
So you're probably right, though. But I didn't know there were the Camels until yesterday. And then Mississippi State and Boston play right after that. And we do I've been sent notes again. That's not one session. They are separate sessions altogether, so they'll be clearing it out, bringing another session in. So there's no carryover on those two games. So
I know how excited they are. I mean, you had Jesse on a little bit yesterday, Martin.
Yeah.
I had him on out of bounds for a longer time, and we kind of got into a lot of details about it. But, they've done it before. But, having been in that role before on the baseball side, there's a lot of details that go into it. Your goal as an administration, and that would include Martin, is to make sure that your head coach, all he has to do, or she has to do, depending on what the sport is coach their team. They don't have to worry about tickets and grounds crews and hotels. I mean, that you're treated in the ideal situation. You treat your home team, your school team, in this case Oklahoma State, as you would a road team. They're taken care of in all aspects, and that's what we, when we had that first regional here way back when in Gary's years. To be honest with you, there was a lot of us in the department who wanted to do it, but we had no idea what and that was what 6 teams were around, U plus 5.
Yeah.
And we had no idea what the chore was and all the details that went into it, from tickets to hotels to meals to everything and everything else. And ticket sessions were one thing, clearing stadiums, bringing people in. The next year, we kind of got in the groove, and okay, you do this, you do this, you do this. So I know his staff and the people here at Oklahoma State, there'll be a lot of help from the department, just as there were, I think, out there at Karsten yesterday, from members of the department helping out for the regional. So we know how to do these things here at OSU, despite the sport, whatever the sport. But until you get into it heads up, then you don't know. And they're going to be getting after it right away, because the teams come in at night. Tomorrow's the practice sessions, and so if there are any problems, or not problems, that's probably dramatic. If there are any things that need to be tightened up or whatever that weren't, they'll start happening today when the teams come in and check in and all that stuff. So, but it's exciting, man. I know what they're going through. It's an excitement that you stay on a high for 5-6 days, and then if you get to Oklahoma City in their case and Omaha our case, then it was all just magic for you. So it's a lot of work, but it's a labor of love to do it.
Well said. Good note to end on, and we'll talk again Friday about this.
Sounds like a good deal. We'll have a better feel for where everybody's going and what they're doing, and hopefully the rain will stay away. We'll get after it tomorrow and see what kind of crowd we can get, and get after New Orleans and take care of things on the field as well.
Sounds perfect. I'll talk to you then.
All right, good deal.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye.
There you go. The one only Tom Dirato. That wraps up the Scramble.